but are ultimately very different conclusions.
I bet you were just like, awesome. Neither of these movies were made in the 90s or early aughts. It's great.
Yeah, well, they're also two of my favorite movies, and one of them being a longtime favorite, and Rio Bravo being a more recent
Yeah, I didn't
favorite.
know how much you liked Rio Bravo, actually,
I
when I
saw it for
asked
the
you to do
first
this.
time, I think last year, and even in my constant efforts to hate Howard Hawks, I was like, this is probably the greatest movie ever made.
I have to make a confession. It will make me sound like a loser, but that's fine. This is one of like the first old movies I ever watched because I was really into Quentin Tarantino when I was like 12 or 13. And he
Yeah,
said my three favorite movies are Taxi Driver, Blowout, and Rio Bravo. So I immediately
yeah.
tracked all those down. And even then, I loved Purple Light in the Canyon. Rio Bravo,
With
Howard Hawks. Let's
That's where I long to be. Uh,
this rewatch. I was like, Ricky Nelson's really fucking good. For the first
he's
time, I
really
was
like
like, I love Ricky
understated
Nelson.
as what's his name? Colorado Ryan.
Colorado.
Colorado Ryan. Hey there, Colorado. I gotta work on my John Wayne. I gotta get better at a John Wayne. Hey,
Rio
Pilgrim.
Bravo. There. Okay, is it your favorite Howard Hawks movie?
Easily, easily. I beefed with. I mean, I haven't seen a lot. My other favorite Hawks movie is the one made by John Ford called Donovan's Reef, but which is basically just a Howard Hawks movie, vibes wise. But no, I beefed with Hawks for a while because I my circle of friends wouldn't shut the fuck up about him,
Hmm.
and also because I'm a big John Carpenter fan.
He has a
And
commentary track on here. Should I
sure
listen to?
fucking enough. And I got real sick after a while of like every review or analysis of a John Carpenter movie being like, yeah, it's Howard Hawks. I'm like, can we talk about something other than the Hawks connection with Carpenter?
Right.
And then because I was like, there's so many other things to talk about, and that subject's been like done to death. And so like for a while I was like, ugh, I'm sick of hearing about Hawks. And then I actually watched Hawks. I think the first one I got into was Gentlemen Prefer Blondes because I watched that with
Hey, that's good for me. I like
beautiful
that one.
movie, beautiful
Yeah.
movie. And then I watched His Girl Friday, which is spectacular and really
I think it's like
vicious.
number three on mine. I like Red River the most. I
I
think
haven't seen
that's
that yet. I've seen very few, but yeah, I
so
was like
good.
those two. I was like, yeah, those are really fucking knockout movies.
And also, The
Um,
Big Sleep, I think, is maybe the best film noir ever made. It's
really,
like
I need to watch it.
it's a labyrinth that cannibalizes itself, which I feel is
Mhm.
perfect of noir. I feel like that's great for
Love it.
him.
I
Um,
I finally watched Rio Bravo though, I think last year, and I was so fucking pissed off because I was like, I can't beef with this. This is an unbeefable movie. Like you can't beef with Rio Bravo. I was like, I hate that this is like one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I'm
it's
pissed
really
about it.
good. Man, I see so many different places to start.
Oh,
Uh,
it's like fucking endless with Rio Bravo. You don't expect it going in.
for instance, like what would you say the movie's about? I think that several people have several different ideas of what the movie's about. Like, what do you think it is? Like,
Uh,
what's the plot of the movie?
I mean, the plot of the movie is just they have to kill time for a week
I think the
because
plot of
a
the movie
guy,
is Dean Martin gets sober. Like that's like the
yeah,
only true narrative
well,
thread I could follow. It's more important than who's in the jail cell. It's
yeah,
literally a
for
tale of
those who haven't
sobriety.
seen it, the basic premise is guy is put in prison who's very important and like has connections for a murder, and everyone is going to try and break him out for the week they have until I think the feds show up or something to collect
Yes.
him. And so
And
they
how
basically have to survive for a week.
and how interested is Howard Hawks in the character of the man in prison?
Oh, we barely fucking well, half the time I forget he's there because the movie ends up being more about my reading of the movie is just it's about how we spend time as it passes because realistically movies tend to show on a moment to moment basis something is happening when that's really not how life works. The way
No.
life actually works is that those photos of Quentin Tarantino in a museum just walking to different parts of different rooms, staring at the wall and like trying to figure out how to occupy himself. And that's how like our lives actually function is we're just trying to figure out how to occupy ourselves for like 16 hours a day before we go to
And
bed.
what makes it interesting is what you're getting at, like that's the hangout, the camaraderie aspect
Yeah,
of the film.
exactly.
And this is my angle on it. Howard Hawks made this after 4 or 5 years of not making a single movie following a box office and critical failure. He was living in Europe, and when he came back to America, television had really blown up in a very large way. And he was
Hmm.
I'm not sure how big of a fan he was of television, but he did make a few comments about how it's not necessarily the plot that people go to television for, it's the characters themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that Rio Bravo shows that. Like you said, passage of time, even like the emotions of the characters. We just want to be around these guys. We just want to like be in the gang with them. And he filled his cast with John Wayne's like the only exception, really. Dean Martin, very well known on television. Ricky Nelson was on Ozzie and Harriet. Walter Brenneman, the old codger from here, was also very well known on television. Angie Dickinson would be incredibly well known on television just
Later.
10 years later. Uh, it's really interesting because this is to me film's first true response to the rise in television, and it's actually a situation where film did it better. Like
Yeah.
I think bought film an extra fucking 30
It
years just with this
it
movie.
does remind me of like the classic description of Seinfeld as a show about nothing,
Yeah,
which you could also use for shows like Friends and
that's why I said,
You.
like, what is the plot of this movie? Because, like, the actual plot, it seems uninterested in. It's way more
Yeah,
interested
again,
in,
it's purely about how these characters choose to occupy themselves for 7 days, which the premise kind of implies that there's going to be a lot of action because you're like, oh, we're holding down the. This is where it's actually very different from a John Carpenter movie because despite like the superficial similarities, is that a movie like Escape from or Assault on Precinct 13. I had a moment there. Assault on Precinct 13 is a very moment to moment, extremely busy movie. And all of Carpenter's movies are like that because all of his movies take place over kind of condensed periods of time. The Thing takes place over like a day.
yeah,
Prince of Darkness takes place over like a weekend. You know, that they all take place over short amounts of time where it's like, they're constantly building barriers, they're constantly doing something to protect themselves. That is the exact polar opposite of what's happening here, which is the premise would lead you to believe that it's going to be like a video game where like every 30 seconds like an army is assaulting the fortress and they have to defend
yeah.
it. That very rarely actually happens in this movie. Most of the time it's just waiting for something to fucking happen, because guess what, it's the old west, so they live in the middle of fucking nowhere. They live in the middle of like the desert in like a dodgy little cabin. And like everyone who's coming to get them is like 100 miles away trying to get there.
Like,
And it's
I can't imagine the amount of times that the characters walked up and down the same exact street while
scary.
just chilling.
Literally, literally. I mean, like, this is probably more accurate to what life was like at that point in time than
True.
any other movie.
And I think it's interesting because I think Hawk saw what television was doing that was exciting so many people and incorporated it into film and made film even more powerful on account of that.
Exactly.
Like,
Well, because this is, as far as I'm concerned, like most of my experience with John Wayne is through John Ford, admittedly.
mhm.
And John Ford is the fucking exact opposite of this movie. Whatever this movie is, it's the opposite of John Ford because John Ford is mythic. John Ford is
Yes.
deals in myths and like
And
the
Hawks deals
idea
in
of what
he actually deals in gender, especially masculinity.
exactly.
That's
Because like like a movies like Young Mr. Lincoln, which is my favorite for it, and The Searchers and Three Godfathers, whatever. These movies are like the myth of the West. I mean, like for example, like half of the movies John Ford made that he shot in Monument Valley were set in places that look nothing the fuck like Utah. Like most of those
yeah.
places were wooded, but like he'll be like Ford will make a movie that's like, yeah, this takes place in like I don't know, Kansas or something, and he makes it and he shoots in southern Utah, and it's like
Yeah.
this doesn't make any fucking sense. But it's because it's like the myth, the idea of the West, whereas Hawks is more interested in like the reality, almost like of life, which is one, it's not that exciting. Two, it's like just endless waiting for shit. And three, just talking to people about like shit that doesn't matter.
I'm kind of shocked at how good it deals with real tangible problems.
Exactly.
I'm hung up on the Dean Martin sobriety
Oh,
plot.
it's the best part of the movie. Dean Martin, like John Wayne is great, but like this is not
This
John
is Dean's
Wayne.
movie for me. This is
Yeah,
Dean's.
no, easily. One for one because although I think it's an appropriate use of John Wayne because
Yes.
he's not trying to do something with John Wayne. He's using John Wayne as a guy you already know going into the movie, as opposed to the way like other directors had used him, which was for his kind of like larger than life quality. You know, like The Searchers is predicated
Yeah.
entirely on John Wayne being larger than life, being like not almost being like a guy you would never run into in real life because he's so John Wayne. You know, he's the Duke. And whereas like
As opposed to the dude
the dude. And
who
meanwhile,
is Dean.
yeah, Rio Bravo is just interested in John Wayne as like a guy who carries all the baggage that comes with looking at a guy. You're like, oh, he's very,
Well, the patriarch who never apologizes.
yeah, he's
It's
very
about
archetypically
generations of
American,
masculinity.
basically.
It's about different
Yeah,
generations of masculinity inhabiting the
exactly.
same space. I mean, we have the old codger, you have John Wayne, Dean Martin, and like the young kid, Ricky Nelson. Different
And John Wayne is
ideas.
the guy who's becoming the old codger. He's getting
Exactly.
old.
It speaks, I can speak from firsthand experience with like the addict mind. Like I like that Dean Martin's dude has to quit drinking at literally like the worst time to do
Exactly.
so. You know, because I've tried to quit substances and been like, oh no, I got this thing coming up. It's gonna be so stressful. I can't quit yet.
No,
I'm
me
gonna need
too.
that.
Me too.
But him, he's like, that's literally the worst time you can quit your
Because that's the
crutch.
time
It's
you
the
want to
most
lean
intense.
on it.
Exactly. And
It's the
watching him come so close so many times and then getting over it by the end of the film, that's such a beautiful arc that
it's
I
a
think is really
it's
positive and
stunning.
must speak to like 1959 men pretty directly too. I mean,
Mhm.
film dealing with alcoholism that doesn't feel like it's lecturing you at all for this time
Mhm.
period is incredible. It's just seen as
And also,
an
of course, you're led to believe that like this is Colorado's future self.
yeah,
This is Colorado's at that place where he's still like on top of the world and cocky. And Dean Martin is the guy who was like that, and then reality hit him like a fucking sack of bricks in the face at
which
like
makes their
100 miles per hour.
harmonizing on Rightful Pony and Me so beautiful because I like once again you're putting things so well that's supported by the film. They harmonize on that song and it's like you said, one becoming the other, blending into the other, like hoping
Yeah,
that. But it's up to the future generation to not just lead by example, would be a stronger archetype, and that's great. But even
yeah,
the Rifle Pony in me adds to my television take too, because I think in Only Angels Have Wings, Howard Hawks did the same thing where like a character joins the group and they play a song on piano. But here, given the talent involved, it feels more like variety television at that
it
point. Like
does. It
now we get a
does.
song. No,
And John
we
Wayne's
get
just
two
in the corner
songs.
sipping his coffee and having a lovely time watching his kids have fun.
Yeah.
It's like John Wayne doesn't do anything. That whole scene, he's just standing there. Like they literally like, hey John, stand right there in the corner and just watch them for like 6 minutes, play a couple
And
songs. And it's two songs. They played
yes,
two
it's
songs. They
two.
literally finish and they're like, I guess we got time for one more. Like they're on TV. Like it's
I
like
always forget it's two. We never remember like
you
Cindy.
never remember the second one because you always remember Rifle Pony and Me, but then they do another one just cuz. And it's so endearing because it
Get
does
along
feel like
home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
exactly. You
fucking
never
great.
remember that when you watch it. And
It's just beautiful. It's a situation where film saw the challenge of television and surpassed it, and that's wonderfully done. Another
Mhm.
fun way to view the movie is as a diss track, as a direct response to a movie that Hawks and Wayne loathed, detested, hated, which was High Noon.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty sure they both thought it was anti-American. High Noon is the Gary Cooper
Yeah,
Western where it's a very similar situation, but when he goes and asks for help, no one comes to his aid. And I think it was supposed to be remarking on the House on American Activities, Communist witch hunts of
it
the
was.
time,
Yeah.
I think.
It was. Yeah.
Um, but they hated that movie and called it like obscenely stupid.
Well, I mean, like it is a movie about like what being a person who lives in America can feel like, which is like specifically outside of like big cities, which is like nothing's ever fucking happening. Like I'm bored, like
hmm
it's more like in touch with like I live in the Midwest. So like the Midwest is literally like that. You're just bored out of your fucking mind.
Yeah. I just think it's there is good conservative reactionary art. It's like, and this is it, honestly.
Yeah, it's just like dead air. It's like living in America, specifically like outside of the East Coast, and is like just wide open plains, and it's like, oh, I'm doing this great fun thing in 3 weeks. I just gotta wait for me to get there. And going to work, trudging through work. It's like there's this it does feel very in touch with like how life
Yeah.
really feels, which is weird because you wouldn't expect to see like John Wayne Western and think like realist or realism, but it does feel like that. And I keep bringing up, but yeah, the whole movie to me feels like a movie about like just time passing. Actually, when I first saw it, I compared it because I love to be spicy. I compared it to Lav Diaz.
Okay.
Um Specifically because there's a part in one of his movies. Lav Diaz has a movie called Lullaby to the Sorrowful Mystery that came out in 2016. And there's this really clever moment in it because of course famously all of his movies are long as shit. Lullaby is 8 hours, I think. And there's a great moment where exactly 4 hours into the movie, um, it starts with a shot of a dude just waiting on a corner for a few minutes, and his friend shows up, and he's like, "Dude, I've been waiting 4 hours for you to show up." And you know what that feels like now because you have just spent 4 hours watching the movie, and so you're like, "Oh, I can imagine like how miserable this dude has been." Literally waiting 4 hours for this moment because we in a way have also been waiting 4 hours for this interaction, which is where two characters finally converge in the story. And Rio Bravo just makes me think of stuff like that too, because so much of it revolves around like everyone is always referring in the movie to how much time until something happens.
Yeah.
They're always like, tonight this is going to happen. And then you see the whole course of the day. And then the night finally happens and the events that happen at night finally occur. And then they're like, oh, this happens 2 days from now. Or, Feathers has to get on this train on this day. And so much of the drama and the tension
And
between her
to
and
be
John
honest, and
Wayne.
I'm sure you'll agree with this, the climax of the film is the most boring part to me when like the confrontation
Oh,
finally
yeah, like
happens.
the shootout
Yeah,
is the least significant part of the whole movie because it's about the waiting for the shootout. It's not about the
exactly.
shootout, it's about waiting for the shootout to happen. What you do to occupy yourself which is kind of like undermining again like the predominant kind of mythic western where it's like the Searchers takes place over what, 8 years
I think
and
so.
give or take close to a decade. Natalie Wood's character is a kid at the start and by the end she's like an adult, and John Wayne goes gray over the course of the movie. And so like lots of shit probably happened during that time that was boring and uneventful, but we don't see any of it. John Ford only shows us the cool parts,
It's
or the
so
the
character
dramatic.
driven. It's so
Yeah,
character driven.
Rio Bravo is exclusively the boring shit, you know.
One of the main points of difference that just makes Rio Bravo so likable and you feel good when you watch it is like High Noon, Gary Cooper can't get anyone to join him, whereas John Wayne, too many people are offering to help who aren't professional and will just get themselves killed. He has to be like to the
Yeah.
hotel owner, like, no, you can't help me, or Feathers, go away.
Yeah,
You're gonna
yeah.
get
There's
hurt if
this
you stayed here. I want people who know what they're doing
there
to help me.
and by the end of it, because you're existing in this kind of liminal period of time, like this liminal space, you get more of a sense of the community in a kind of more realistic way than something like, say, I don't know, Stars in My Crown by like Jacques
Mhm.
Tournier, which is like a kind of more romantic movie about community, or like Henry King movies where it's like everyone has a specific role in this community that is fulfilled. And that's kind of special. And there's this kind of interactivity between the strata and that community. Whereas Rio Bravo, it's like you don't talk to everybody. These are the people you talk to.
Exactly.
John Wayne has his friends. He doesn't like talk to people who aren't his friends. He just hangs out with the same people every day shooting the shit. And that in a way is more kind of true to life, whereas like in your community there's a small set of people. He hangs out with Dean Martin, Feathers, and
Yeah.
this kid worms his way into his life against his consent.
I have to. Well, okay, that's the best action scene in the movie is when Colorado actually joins and he has Feathers
Intervenes.
throw it out the window, like throw the
He
flower pot
finally
out. Yeah.
intervenes and on their behalf because he's
And
like,
it's
I
so
have
quick,
something to
but
offer.
it's the best action in the movie. The rest of the time I'm focused on the friendships. But hey, the start of this movie, Howard Hawks started off in the silent era. Like we are seeing
Oh my God,
silent
I was about to
techniques.
bring it up.
Like
Yeah,
like that is pure, it's not just homage to silent. That's how the film would have been shot if it was silent, coming from
like
us, one of the silent kings. Like that
fucking
upward
god
shot
tier
from
opening.
when Dean Martin's trying to dig the quarter out of the spittoon bucket or whatever, and that he gets kicked out of the way by John Wayne, and that upward shot, it's just like
Oh,
it's pure silent cinema, and it's so fucking good.
the whole opening, like 10 minutes is like a film school, bro. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Rio Bravo is the fucking key. It's the key. It tells you like everything you need to know about filmmaking, really. Like in a lot of ways. I mean, like when it chooses to do rely on close-ups and what scenes it opts not to do that.
yeah,
Like for the most iconic scene of the movie, like you said, it's not even an action scene. It's the scene of just three guys singing.
yeah.
Two guys singing the day before something
I,
important
I
happened.
even see some Leone here in the Dean Martin close-ups when he's really trying
Hmm.
to resist the urge of alcohol, and you see all the lines and sweat
Yeah.
all over his
Yeah.
face.
The very textured face. It reminds me
Yeah,
of Once Upon a Time in the West. Like
yeah,
really textured
exactly.
face.
And I do have to, before I forget this criticism, I have to say it. The one thing that doesn't work, Angie Dickinson, ooh, so fine. Love her. She's beautiful, super hot. John Wayne is the most awkward human being in the world in every scene that he has with Feathers. Also, he's way too old for her, which might have been common. And Howard Hawks reused a lot of dialogue from To Have and Have Not with Bogey and Bacall. And like, it's the same fucking dialogue. Just
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
into a different scene. The stuff
I
with
do think the age
Feathers,
gap is probably intended to an extent because it's just like
but it doesn't work to it. I know that Howard Hawks himself liked to entertain himself with extremely young women, but it doesn't work in this film. I think Howard Hawks, I mean, I'm sorry, John Wayne looked awkward. I think he might have even felt awkward in those scenes. But Angie Dickinson, she carried that all those scenes on her shoulders.
I kind of like the awkwardness for the because I feel like John Wayne's character when I'm watching the movie in his own head he's like this chick's way too young for me. And so I feel like the character himself is unwilling to accept that this younger woman is like horny as shit for him. And so like he's like being like this feels weird. And then she keeps persisting. He's like, hey,
It's
whatever
weird.
happens,
Like,
happens by the end. I feel like it's actually like written into the characterization that he's uncomfortable with the age gap. For me, when I watch it, that's just like how I read the relationship is that he feels like this
yeah,
distance from her
but I
and
don't know if
trying to
that's
minimize
supposed
it.
to be there. I feel like that's John Wayne himself being like,
Yeah, I can't tell if that was like written into the movie or if that would just came through the performance. And I'm
don't
not
you
sure I
know
care
Dean
either
Martin is
way.
right over there? We can just get Dean Martin to
Like
do
just have
this.
the Dean Martin. Dean Martin's already got the character arc though, which is that he
Yeah, I
overcomes
know.
his alcoholism. So
He
it's like,
can't.
okay, maybe we should make John Wayne the alcoholic.
Well, that's the flaw I see in the movie, though. I think that Dean Martin fucking he should have had the feathers romance because the reason that Dean Martin was an alcoholic was because of a woman who broke his heart or
Who broke
something.
his heart and
Like
left
if
him.
we
Yeah.
could get through that with feathers who can also kind of trigger his wants to drink. Like I think that Dean Martin, I think there are flaws in the movie and
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that, but I think I'm kind of drawn to that quality again because it's kind of like it doesn't feel like it's trying to show me something conventional, like conventionally cinematic or like very Hollywood. It's showing more just like the random
I think
bullshit
that
that
is
just
very
happened.
Hollywood to have John Wayne be
Maybe it is. I
irresistible.
don't know. The
She
way
should have
it's
just
paired.
fucked Walter Brennan then. She should have just gone for the oldest guy in the group.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like in her performance, there's this sense that she's aware of how he feels and she's trying to get him to be. It almost feels like she's taking charge in the relationship. Like
Yeah. Oh no,
she's
yeah, yeah.
she's the dominant one in the relationship. She's the pursuer, and he's resisting it because he's old and tired and doesn't give a fuck anymore. And she's like, I want him. And I don't know, something about that feels so unconventional to me in a way that's kind of like true to life in that like these characters aren't worrying about like what the viewing public is going to think about their relationship. They're just like two people who are killing time in this small town and like I guess we'll fuck. And I don't know. I see where you're coming from, but it works for me. It works for me. Something about it.
Angie Dickinson was great. She was really sexy and fun. I like her in general. Dressed to Kill. We should cover that one day as
Oh, I
well.
love Dress to Kill. It's
She
the
was
only
great in
moral
Dressed to
movie
Kill.
ever made about a trans person.
She was basically Janet Leigh in Dressed to Kill. She was excellent.
Dress to Kill is better than every movie ever made by a trans person. Is my
And
take
it,
of the day.
and it starred feathers. So there we
Yeah,
go.
I fucking love Dress to Kill. It's like it might top carry for me. It's close. They're both my favorite. They're my two favorites, but by De Palma. But regardless, yeah, I don't know. There's just something about Rio Bravo that compels me to like every weird thing about it, every kind of like thing that's kind of like makes me pause or be like, I'm not sure about that. It feels like it's in some way always like integrated into the text,
Yeah.
either incidentally or otherwise. So it's like every time there's something like I'm like, hey, like I don't is the shootout that like great? And I'm like, maybe not. But that feels like it's part of the point.
But
Is that
it goes with what you're saying about dudes hanging out and the fact that the most iconic scene in the whole film, and it's truly the best one, the singing, it undercuts the action. Like the best scenes in the movie, like there's a Rifle Pony and Me happens right after Colorado joins, and we take a break from the action. Like
I mean,
we
I would go further and say like the most iconic scene of the movie, and I would argue the most essential scene of the movie, which is that part, is the least important narratively. Like that is if
yes,
there is one scene you could cut from the movie and the whole thing would
yeah.
narratively remain completely unchanged. Like if that scene never made it into the final movie, no one would notice its absence because it doesn't add anything narratively.
It actually distracts from from the plot. Like
And yet it
it's
is the
or even
it
to go further, like it actively, it's
yeah.
like a
And
movie
yet
that actively tries to like stop the action from happening.
and yet it's like I would argue like the justification for the movie's existence is that scene in a way.
Yeah,
Like the reason the whole 2.5 hour movie exists is to get to that moment of all these guys who from different walks of life and different ages coming together for something beautiful and it unimportant.
yeah. So, what do you think that Hawks is saying about like male bonding or masculinity through this movie?
So I don't know, but something beautiful. I love it.
Right,
Like
right.
it's
Just
something
boys
like
being boys.
yeah, there's something like this kind of almost like utopian ideal of masculinity. Like John Wayne is in a way stripped of everything that makes him kind of edgy. He's like
Mhm.
almost like stripped of that kind of harsher side to himself. I mean, this is like the gentlest John Wayne ever was for me. I mean, there's probably some John Ford movies where he's gentle, but I mean like there's just something so like it's weird to see this guy that I so often associate with kind of the more traditional, raw, patriarchal masculinity
Right.
being depicted as sensitive, uncomfortable around a woman, almost afraid of a woman. Like it's weird to make John Wayne afraid of
I'm just
her.
okay. That might be a happy accident. I still firmly believe that was not
Yeah,
intended. I think he was supposed to be like Humphrey Bogart. I
yeah,
think like
yeah. Maybe, but still, like just like the, and if nothing else, he's clearly deliberately played as a man who's more gentle,
of course.
as more less abrasive. He's not antagonistic. He's not
Oh,
like even
it's
with the
weird.
younger kid with Nick with Colorado.
Colorado.
Yeah, he's only pushing him away for his safety. He's like, "Hey, stay out of trouble. Be careful. Don't make stupid decisions." And
Yeah,
that's
I
how
thought
he
you were
is.
smart until you said that. But yeah, yeah. But No, he says that to Colorado. I wasn't saying that to you.
Yeah,
He says
I know,
like
but
John,
that's how it feels. Is like John Wayne almost out of playing
like
against
even when Colorado refuses to join at first, he's like smart kid. Like,
yeah, exactly. He's like actually just a nice person. And Dean Martin, despite being like
oh,
a
that's the best dynamic with John Wayne is like him, like you feel for him so much in the scenes where he's watching his friend be humiliated. And like John Wayne is too strong of a patriarch to just, baby him, but he does so well at helping his friend gain
I mean,
sobriety in a very strong and masculine way that it's never feminine.
literally the whole reason the plot happens, the whole reason this guy ends up in prison is because John Wayne defends Dean Martin
Yeah.
from being humiliated.
And
That's
when
the
he's returned like for that favor by Dean Martin hitting John Wayne in the head, making him bleed a bunch. Like
exactly,
it's
exactly. Like
dynamic.
that
It's
is the impetus for the whole movie. The movie doesn't exist without that moment. That's like the inciting incident is John Wayne steps in to de defend the dignity of his friend because he's like, "You're better than this. You don't deserve this."
and I think it's really nice because when you say gentle, I'm thinking sensitive is a really good word
Yeah,
for John T. Chance in this movie.
yeah.
Like
I
Red
just mean as
River,
a man in
his
touch with his feelings, like he's
Fox's other big Western, Red River from the 40s, was about like a similar dynamic, or not similar, but it was about a confrontation of new masculinities. Of John
hmm,
Wayne was like pretty mean in that movie because he was very old school. And Montgomery Clift is one of his very first movies, one of the best actors ever. But he was like the new and emerging, sensitive young man,
hmm,
and those two clash
hmm.
in that film. And I feel like it shows growth in Hawks's psychology as well, and possibly like masculinity and culture in the late 50s because we can
Well,
look at John Wayne in that movie and see sensitivity and also strength. Like it incorporated the new Monty Clift elements into him. And also, Dean Martin is not viewed as less of a man for um, almost succumbing to his addiction.
alcohol.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, you're making me realize that the movie is maybe not like as like a hardcore realistic as it made it out to be before, because there is kind of like an idealistic quality to it. Like I brought up Stars in My Crown earlier by Jacques Tourneur. That's a movie that's the whole appeal of it is that it is the most like idealistic depiction of an American community you can possibly fucking imagine, to the point that the
yeah,
white conservative gun-toting preacher defends the honor of a black man being persecuted by racists. And like that's how idealistic that movie is. And this movie in a way is similarly where it's like all the best parts of what people thought of as masculinity at that point in time in America given this opportunity to like shine, I guess. Like it's like
yeah.
the best aspects of masculinity flourishing while the worst aspects of masculinity are kind of like subdued and kind of ignored for this kind of ideal of what masculinity like could look like. You know, it's still strength, it's still, this kind of like John Wayne is still something of like a father to this group, and yet
Yes.
it carries none of like the violence we might associate with that role.
Uh,
Where I think of patriarch and I think of something fundamentally violent.
I never thought that I would say that Howard Hawks had a healthy take on masculinity, but it is Rio Bravo. It is.
It
Uh,
is like it's just boys being guys being homies.
Yeah, and like they don't humiliate each other.
That's the other thing.
The most emasculating the film gets is when and it's fucked up because Dean Martin like finally gets like a bath and a shave and puts on clean clothes, and then he gets attacked and hogtied, and
Yeah,
that's the most emasculating the film gets. And John looking down, that's the second time that Dean Martin punches John Wayne in the face.
yeah.
It's such a good dynamic between John Wayne and Dean Martin because John
Mhm.
Wayne just is trying so hard for his friend, and he has that subtle, like you said, he's like still pretty strong, like patriarch, like at the very end of the movie where Dean's like, I don't even think about alcohol anymore right now. I'm like finally over it or something to those effects. Like
Yeah, yeah. No, I know the part you're talking about.
it's just really meaningful. I'm just so happy they had the Dean Martin plot here, or
Yeah,
else
no,
it would
it's
really be nothing. It would
Dean
really be
Martin
nothing.
absolutely fucking shreds this movie. Like he is.
and
the
he never hit
fucking
this level again. Like he never.
yeah,
This
it's
is
lightning in a bottle. This is like I really think so much of this movie is lightning in a bottle. It's just like it could only have happened at that exact moment in time, and it happened. And it's like we got lucky, like we got so fucking lucky that it happened. Because the whole cast, everyone in this movie is just like doing what they needed to do, and were like the best choice for that role. Um, and Dean Martin, yeah, I can't even imagine him recapturing this elsewhere
no.
because it's so specific to the material, to the story that was written, to working opposite John Wayne and Ricky Nelson. It's like it's so special, his arc is so slow too. It's like a really
That's what makes it
long
feel.
process.
That's where the realism that you were talking about feels good because like he's struggling with it through the entire film.
Oh, I mean, I talked about how the whole point of the movie is like waiting for things to happen, and how we choose to occupy ourselves during dead time. And of course, Dean Martin's answer to that at the start of the movie is that he drinks.
Yeah,
And which is usually, at least in my experience, for me and people I know, like addiction is usually because it's like I don't know what else to do with
yeah.
myself. And that's probably more relatable than ever when it's like, when is this set, like the 1800s in the middle of a fucking
Mm.
southern state, that he has nothing to do. His girl is gone, he's got no one, nothing to do, no responsibilities, nothing, and so he just
He
drinks
has
to.
like he has no pride to get self-worth and self-respect back, and
Yeah,
it goes with the John Wayne dynamic more because John Wayne reminds everyone that you wouldn't have been saying that 2 years ago that he's a lousy drunk. He was like the best gun in the West. He was like my
exactly.
best friend. You wouldn't be and he still sees that within Dean.
Oh, I'm at your
Uh,
mercy on that front. But no, I forget what your last thought was. It was just talking about the Dean Martin arc, but I
the
just
Dean
think
Martin arc is the most impressive thing in this
it's
movie.
the most beautiful part because again, it's essential to the main theme being this passage of time and blah blah. I've said like 50 times now. Because it's like that's what makes recovering from an addiction so hard, is that you're forced to like re-educate yourself on how to occupy dead space, dead air,
Yeah.
where nothing is happening without giving into that. And that's been difficult. That's a difficult thing to experience, is you're forced to be like, no, like I'll just sit in this room, not drunk, and I'll just do something. And you have to like teach yourself how to do that again. And that's what I feel like you're watching Dean Martin do. And that's why I found it really like compelling and beautiful, is that like you really feel for him because of that quality to the film's pacing, that kind of meanderiness, is because he's not occupied with action. If the movie was back to back like gunfights and people raiding the thing, there'd be no drama in his recovery from alcoholism because he's busy. He's too busy
Yeah.
to think about it. But he's not busy. That's the
I,
problem. He's
I
got
love that
nothing
we
to think
see
about.
his recovery from alcoholism affecting him in the few action scenes that we do get, that he's not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
Exactly.
there's a
He's
great scene with Dean Martin where like he starts to get back on like being very good at his job, where
mm,
he chases the guy who shot Wheeler into a bar and he's
yeah.
hiding up on the scaffolding. And Dean
Yeah.
Martin, it's such a well shot and written scene. He makes everyone in the bar like take off their guns and stuff. He knows that the guy's hiding in there, and like just when everyone thinks he's an idiot and he like in his delirium tremens, like he was wrong about where the guy ran. He sees blood dripping from the ceiling into a beer glass, so he knows that he not only shot him while he was running, but that he's up there and turns. Ah, that's so good. And the action
And
actually
he's
means
like, I think I'll
something.
take that drink. And
Yes, and the action actually means something there because this is the dude that John Wayne has been hyping up. Like this is and like you can
yeah,
see
you
it in John Wayne's
finally.
face too. And John Wayne's like, there he is. There's
It's
dude. He's
Chekhov's
coming
drunk.
back. And I think it gave the dude character motivation or just like I can do this sober. Like I still am
I'm
valuable.
yeah, I'm still that guy.
I'm
I'm
still
still
helpful. I still have value in this community, in this weird group like this weird little death pact that we have right now.
which, by the way, it is kind of like a weird group of people, you
Yes.
know? Like you got this old fart who doesn't know what the fuck's going on. You got John Wayne as, again, per my reading, like a sexually insecure sheriff. Dean Martin as the drunk who has the voice of an angel. And then you just have this young kid who doesn't know shit about anything trying to get involved in action. And it's like this, and then of course Feathers, and it's just this fucking like odd group of people. It's
And then,
like,
yeah, the Mexican hotel owners as well. Like you have a
yeah, it's
lot
like
of
the most
colorful characters,
unsuspecting heroes, the most unsuspecting group of
which
people.
that right there makes me at least grateful for the cinematic ideal of John Wayne and Howard Hawks's pro-America movie. If it is a bunch of unsuspecting heroes, a bunch of misfits turned heroes with their own big problems, that's not a bad message to give out in 1959. I don't mind that.
Well, yeah,
Um,
again, it's like it's presenting us an ideal, but it's like an ideal that's valuable. You know,
mhm.
it's like it's valuable to imagine this space where, four different, completely different men from,
Yeah.
with completely different problems come together and mutually support each other through their
Exact
problems.
mutually support. Yeah. It's actually more fucking communist than I knew.
It really is. It's like there's this like utopian quality to it almost. Like they're able to work together to solve this problem. And
I
they're
love that like his response to High Noon wasn't like the sheriff would be a badass and everyone would be the coolest person in the world. No, they're all like you said, like the weird old man who almost
yeah.
shoots Dean Martin in the face because he got a shave. Like,
Well, because the stereotypical thing to do would be for John Wayne to play the same character he played in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance,
yes,
which is which he plays like kind of like a metaphor for old like American values. He's like,
maybe that's what makes this film the classic that it is. Like you said, it's not interested in the mythos of the Old West. I
yeah,
think it's concerned with modern problems in the 50s. I think it like spoke to
yeah.
modern wants out of a Western as well. It kept not only the genre alive, but film itself more relevant than television for the next 30, 40 years. It did a
Well,
lot.
it's the usual example, which is that like men are just as much a victim of misogyny as women insofar as they're being cultivated this certain way that they think they're supposed to be, and they're
Mm.
made into these like, things that they shouldn't have to be or do, and things that they just like vessels for violence and stuff, basically. And it's like this alternative view of masculinity, where masculinity implies this kind of, for Howard Hawks anyway, seems to imply this sense of um self-control, and it's almost kind of like Aristotelian, like this, like,
Yeah.
doing what you are here to do and fulfilling your duty to your community and the people around you, and being someone that can be relied upon is like what Hawks's idea of like male a
Yeah.
positive male figure is like this man who is reliable and doing everything for the people around him rather than themselves. Dean Martin overcomes his wallowing and self-loathing so that he can think about others again.
And I do appreciate this is like a very masculine director, but I like that his like female fantasy is a
Also
rather
strong.
masculine woman. At least in her behavior and the words that she says, she's quicker. She's always quicker than the guy. Like look at Lauren Bacall. Like Lauren
Yeah,
Bacall is probably the quintessential Hoxian woman.
yeah.
Quicker than the guy, has a sordid past. You have a feeling that she could take care of herself in a large way. There's still feminine vulnerabilities, like Angie
Well, yeah,
Dickinson
because the
breaks
whole
down.
question is, when is she gonna leave? Because
Yeah,
she can leave, and she's entirely capable of supporting herself. She doesn't need John Wayne to take care of her.
she doesn't
That's
need
the
no
important
man.
part. She wants John Wayne, but she doesn't need John Wayne.
Hmm.
Is the difference. Which is why it's so important that she's the pursuer. Is
Yeah,
that
and
she is the one who's going, she can tame this guy rather than the all opposite
and
of like John
traditionally
Wayne
that's
taming.
that's a traditional Hoxian romantic
Yeah.
dynamic.
Is that
Um,
John Wayne is like the one that needs to be like tamed to her,
what's
you
even
know?
more interesting with the Hoxian dynamic between like men and women is that like once they do sleep together, it it's not it's not like a huge thing happens. They still are bickering. They still are doing
Yeah,
their
yeah,
witty stuff with
exactly.
each other. It's very cool. I
I
think
feel
it
like the
is nice.
traditional I was gonna say that I feel like the traditional thing would be like after that moment has passed, the characters typically I feel like regress back into these kind of more gendered roles. You
Yes.
know, that's the usual Hollywood movement that occurs is the people that are in conflict with each other, they fall in love and admit that they love each other and whatever, and then they kind of revert into this more conservative ideal of what a man and woman in a relationship looks like. I mean, you see that in like Gigi by Vincent Minnelli, where like Gigi at the start is very abrasive and tomboy.
Actually, the more we talk about it, the more Marxist I think this movie is because
Yeah,
it tames neither one. And the last scene we see with Angie Dickinson in the film, she's wearing like really revealing lingerie for the time. Like neither are tamed.
yeah, they're
Like,
still exactly the people they
and
are.
neither are liberated either. Like John Wayne's just as awkward as he was in the very first scene with her. Like
Yeah, and
it's
she's just as dominating in their
exactly.
interactions. And it's I don't know, I'm like just won over by this image of like the guy who's like the quintessential American man. Like he is like
Yeah.
John Wayne is like the like idea, like America's chose this is the guy we want other countries to think of as the prototypical American man is John fucking Wayne. And he's like a big guy. And seeing him just even like in the text, even if I'm being generous in my reading of his behavior in the movie, the text still it has him as the one being pursued. Like that is
Yeah.
still like an essential part of the
Oh no,
screenplay.
yeah, that's with all the Hawks women. Like
And
Rita
that's
Hayworth and Only Angels Have Wings, Lauren Bacall, it's there.
exactly is that he is not like it's like taking this guy down a notch. And I like
It's
that.
just
I really
the
love that.
I love it too. It's just that the fucking age difference makes it feel more fantasy like within
It
Rio
does. It
Bravo.
does. It does. It ultimately works for me, but like I get it. I really get it. It is kind of like weird. Like you have to kind of make a call about how you feel about that in the movie.
It's also weird because it's like just fuck Dean Martin. He's right there. I don't care if he's drunk.
I
It's
get
like
my reason though for that is that if it wasn't like this, then John Wayne would have nothing going on.
it's
Because
yeah.
it's like they each get their thing that they have to do.
But what
Dean
does
Martin's got to get
Colorado
over
have going
alcohol,
on?
and the Dean Martin's thing is he's got to get over drinking, and John Wayne's thing is he's got to get laid, and those are their problems. And if you
And
take away that problem from John Wayne, it's like, what's he doing with himself in this
oh, I
movie?
guess Colorado's thing could be like proving his masculine worth within this group.
And I actually think that he, in a way, is kind of like more representative of the stereotype of masculinity. But it's because he's
Yes,
young, and so
exactly.
he's like, in a weird way, he's the kid like molded by television and movies. He's the guy
Yeah.
who like he's the kid who's like 19 and based his personality and political values on having seen True Grit and Stagecoach at the movies. And so he's like, oh, that's what men are like. And then he meets these real guys. He meets Dean Martin and John Wayne and sees like what men are actually like and like what masculinity really means. And he, in his own way, kind of achieves a more realistic, kind of like healthy masculinity by the end of the
And I
film.
think a healthy view of heroism. This film has a really sober, for the I think best
Yeah,
possible word, view of heroism because
no,
it's
easily.
not like John Wayne's like I'm making a last stand. I'm making a. It never talks with that kind of gravity.
Yeah, because
It's
to him, this is just another week.
exactly
I've,
like
I've been
that's
thinking of
really
this
cool.
I've been thinking of this idea lately. I don't know if it's significant in any way, but my mind keeps going back to it about like photography and how the thing that actually makes film like photography is that you're only ever seeing like a moment. Like we can be taught in like the lives of these people. Like we can be talking about like a like all 5 hours of Napoleon by Abel Gance, and it's still just like a snapshot. It's still only 5 hours in a life that was much longer than five
Yeah.
hours. And Rio Bravo, I think, really deals with that. It's like, yes, it's a movie about how, it's really, really, really slow. Like Rio Bravo, like the whole opening scene is like agonizingly slow on purpose, and it's so meandering and just it's a movie entirely of subplots with
And
no
yet you're
overarching plot.
gripped, and yet you're there in the
And
palm
yet
of
you're
Howard's
there,
hand.
and by the end you realize that even though it was so slow and long and covered like a whole week, that's still just a week. It's
Yeah.
still only another week, one of like 52 weeks in this whole year. Like this might be the most insignificant year in the lives of these people by the end of their life.
Because they
And we
really
don't
don't
know.
act like it's a big deal. None of them really
Yeah,
do.
because no one acts like some random week in their life is the most important world historical event. It's just
Well,
another
because
week.
Dean Martin has more important shit going on too. Like there's
Yeah,
things.
once because like the end of the movie is once he's sober, he can get back to his life. He can actually live.
That's why at the start of this, I was like, what's the movie about? Because the subplots overshadow the plot actively, like it wants
That's why I
to.
said it's a movie entirely of subplots.
Like, I don't remember the fucking name of the guy in prison.
Oh, I never do. I literally don't know. I don't remember.
It doesn't even say it on the back of the box. It's unimportant. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
No, I literally
Uh,
don't remember.
any final thoughts on Rio Bravo?
Not really.
It's good. It's good. Just hanging out. If if this analysis were true to form, he should have just like gabbed and then every 10 minutes say something about the movie and then went back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. To talk about this, I'm gonna spend 45 minutes talking about Avatar, which actually this is like the exact opposite of Avatar in every way imaginable. But
And I don't actually see too much Carpenter in
no,
Hawks in
no,
general.
God no, definitely not.
I think people just they see that Carpenter watches Hawks movies before he directs and like loves Hawks, but I don't doesn't mean I have to see him. I think people write those articles and just they have no evidence to support that. That's
Well,
just
I can
not.
tell you the exact reason. It's the same thing as like De Palma and Hitchcock, which is it's the most obvious thing
Yeah,
that someone smarter than me at some point in time pointed out and became popular enough that now everyone knows that connection. And so you can sound like the smart guy by saying
yeah.
like, yeah, Carpenter is just Hawks. And it's like, okay, Hawks is an influence on Carpenter, but there's many influences on Carpenter. I mean, God, I see more say like in Halloween, that's to me a Lovecraft movie, Halloween. Like
Yeah, yeah, and I always like that.
it's an I've called it an adaptation of the Dunwich Horror. Um because it's about like a community that produces a monster that they're unaware is there. And I don't know, like Hawks is there. Like obviously Assault on Precinct 13 is influenced by Hawks, but there's more going on there. There's
Yeah,
there's
but
there's
Hawks
so
is
much
there, but
more.
Hawks is there in every story that's similar to that. So
Exactly. It's like you
just
can't
like
like
with Hitchcock, you can't have a certain kind of thriller without Hitchcock being involved.
exactly. And especially when again, like I think the difference in the nature of the storm, or protect the castle narrative, which is
Hmm.
every Carpenter movie is like ends up at eventually a bunch of people in a small space putting up barricades. And like that's like
Yeah,
half of Carpenter's movies. And it's like that doesn't actually happen in Rio Bravo because actually Rio Bravo they're like pretty lax about the whole thing.
I mean,
Actually at the end of Rio Bravo they're assaulting the cabin. They're
this might be an unpopular thing to say, but uh, just to like reroute it to the beginning and why I originally watched it, if there's anyone who I see deliberately do Hawksian things repeatedly, it's Tarantino.
yeah.
Half of basically nothing that he does pushes the plot forward traditionally in like a Pulp Fiction or Hateful Eight. It's like
Oh, yeah.
guys hanging out.
I mean,
Like
What is Pulp Fiction if not a movie entirely of subplots about guys just hanging out?
exactly. I see like and I think that that's more deliberate than Carpenter would have been. I think that's
Yeah.
deliberately a Hawksian move.
actually another example, Reservoir Dogs, which I haven't
Yes.
watched in fucking lifetime, but Reservoir Dogs is in a way a besieged cabin. It's a bunch of people in this small space waiting for something to happen, which is of course the cops are going to show up
And
eventually, and they're all going to go either die or go to prison.
and it
But
comments on masculinity, and the most important or most symbolic parts of both films arguably are musical moments with Stuck in the Middle with
exactly,
You or doing the twist at the milkshake bar. Like
exactly,
it's a
and
variety show again.
despite the fact that it is a movie about waiting for something to happen that's going to happen,
Yeah.
there's this sense in Reservoir Dogs that they're just kind of like fucking around until that happens. Like it's actually a long time to wait. And they've got nothing to do but talk with each other.
Yeah, and I think that Tarantino's seemingly weird view of how women and men talk to each other is pretty Hawksian as well. It's
Yeah,
almost
no, it is.
anti-romantic. It's almost anti-romantic, like Hawks is pretty
No, it
much
is. Like
recently.
the whole scene of Uma Thurman and John Travolta in Pulp Fiction at the
Yeah,
restaurant is very similar to like every interaction between John Wayne and
I, Hawks might be
Feathers.
the strongest influence in Tarantino now that I think
Oh,
about it.
easily. And he
So,
hates John Ford, so that makes sense.
oh, I didn't even know that. Good for
Oh,
him.
Tarantino has
Good for him.
repeatedly called Ford like an old racist. Which is ironic, but I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna get into it. But yeah, he's like, oh yeah, John Ford. Carpenter's also kind of like dry on Ford. Like I think he used to like Ford, but then they interviewed him like in the 90s and he's like, look, like The Searchers is pretty good, but like, oh my God, why do we have to like spend 15 minutes on a wedding? I'm trying to find out if they're gonna get the girl back. I don't care about this wedding.
What what did Spielberg think of Hawks? Because I know he loved Ford. Do you know what he thought of
I don't
Hawks?
know actually. I feel like he probably likes him.
Who does Spielberg hate?
Yeah, no one because he's a coward. But I mean, like, I saw someone point out recently that the funniest part of the Fablemans is that he dedicates a whole section of the movie or the whole finale of his movie about himself to the moment where John Ford absolutely ridiculed him because he's a better filmmaker than Spielberg, and Spielberg was like, "That was awesome." That like he's not on Ford's level. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think Ford sometimes gestured to similar ideas. Like Wagon Master is
Well,
also a movie
I
about
don't think they're
maneuvering.
comparable.
They're
Hawks
not.
didn't actually make that many westerns. I
He
don't really
didn't.
think. Yeah.
And I think, although I think also people neglect the John Ford movies that weren't
Oh my
westerns.
God, we talk all about De Palma and never mentioned that he remade Howard Hawks' movie Scarface and made it completely
Oh
wild.
yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. Yeah,
There's some cinephile out there who's like they brought De Palma up like 10 times and
I
they
guess.
didn't
Although
mention
I
this.
feel like I don't know. I don't see maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I just haven't seen enough Hawks, but I feel like I don't see enough Hawks in De Palma because De
No,
Palma is so like rigid in his constructions.
Scarface is brilliant.
It is. No, Scarface.
I like De Palma's version. That's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's
Oh, did you
amazing.
watch Scarface?
Oh yeah, I finally did. Like
Isn't it great? It's so
I watched it
fucking
last time I was
good.
at my parents' place and my dad walked in and when he realized I was watching Scarface for the rest of the day he kept going, her womb is polluted. Can't make no babies. Also, a kid I work with did that. Like a 14-year-old I work with was walking around the building because he had watched Scarface and he kept going, my woman's polluted. Can't make no babies. And I'm like, why is that the line?
That movie is so fucking
It's
great. I
funny
can't
because I'm
imagine a
like,
more chaotic duo than Brian De Palma and Oliver Stone, but there it is. There it
look,
is, folks.
it brings people together. My dad is like a 60-year-old white guy, and this kid I work with is not white and 14, and they both come together in their love of Tony Montana.
I think it's one of the best critiques of capitalism from the 80s because it
No,
literally
it's really good.
cannibalizes itself.
Um,
It
I
like tears itself
I think
apart.
I prefer Carlito's Way a little bit, but
Oh, you had to
they're
ruin
basically
it.
equal to me. I mean my favorites are Carrie and Dress to Kill, and after that it's just kind of like the Wonderful World of De Palma. And I'm like I'm not gonna be picky about which one's better than which, but Scarface is so good. It's
It
so
is.
good.
I'm so happy you watched it.
Can't
But
make no babies.